Hey, Leah. What are we unwrapping today?
Hey, we are unwrapping Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
No question mark at the end of that title. People mistake that sometimes. Oh, crinkle, 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 crinkle.
Have we ever
So
explained the inside joke there?
what? It's the unwrapping. That's the crinkle, crinkle. We've talked about that.
I think when I've done the crinkle crinkle, we don't need to explain it, but for some reason, Michael's like, insert the notes say insert inside joke here.
Uh,
Crinkle crinkle.
yeah.
So Leah, Robert
Yes.
Zemeckis' 1988 Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Uh,
Yes.
you had said previously that you were taken to the theater to see it, and you had to leave because there was a scene that was upsetting.
Yes. This is my recollection, although I did confer with my mother, who was the other present party. And she remembers it differently. She remembers my parents actually taking me out because they did not like the film and they thought it was too violent. So, I don't know which one's true, but I do have a memory of like a car going through a brick wall or like the whatever her character was, the Betty Boop type lady, or whatever.
Jessica
Jessica
Rabbit.
Rabbit, thank you.
You
Yeah, the
just
main
saw the movie.
character.
Kathleen Turner, Jessica Rabbit. You
Oh my
just saw the movie. And
Oh
that
my
like
God.
Betty
It was
Boop was
some
in the
days ago
film.
now. Right,
Whoa,
you're
whoa,
right.
whoa.
I just forgot
Betty
her name
Boop
for a
was
minute.
in the
Sorry.
film in black and white, all right, as a
I know I
cocktail
needed to do
waitress.
a refresher. It was, like 4 or 5 days ago I saw it now. But because I was prepared for, this
It
weekend.
was
So
Jessica
anyway,
Rabbit is a Kathleen Turner type character,
this
voiced
is
by
true.
Kathleen Turner.
Yes, and that was a classic voice. So good casting there, I will say. But yeah, I just remember like I have like little images of it. I don't remember a ton of the stuff. Like I didn't remember Christopher Lloyd at all. I mean, I was 4, so like this is, there's like some vague memory there.
So did they, just real
Um,
quick, did they not like the film or not like the film for a 4-year-old?
I think they didn't like the film and didn't like the film for a 4-year-old. Like my dad is
Boo.
so
Well,
anti-violence
your
that
dad,
I
well,
think
yeah,
that
what
he
that's
just wouldn't have wanted to expose me to I think that at that age. I think they thought it was going to
understandable.
be something different
Mhm.
and they were like this is too much and then we're like let's just go. So apparently we didn't make it through the whole movie, but I don't remember at what point or whether I ended up being really upset myself or we all were just like yeah, this is not for
Do
us.
you have
But
any
yeah.
recollection? Do you have any recollection of like the film being released like at the time, or you're just like, oh, you're just
No.
going to a movie, right?
Yeah, I don't
Patrick,
remember even going. I mean, like, I don't think
okay.
I have any memory of that.
So 88, Patrick is 6. So you were 4 and Patrick is 6. That's right. You were
Yeah,
about to
I
be
just
6.
turned I just turned 6 because we saw it
No,
for
Well, when did
I
it
think
no,
come
we saw it
out? What?
July. We saw
we
it
we saw it twice in the
twice.
theater. I believe if I'm my
So,
memory is this that we saw it and then I loved it so much that I wanted to see it on my birthday.
Oh, really?
oh,
Maybe
That's
that's the
it.
case.
wait,
We
when's your
so
birthday again? I should know
August
this.
14th.
Okay, so it came out in the summer.
Yeah,
Wait, when's
Yeah.
your birthday, Michael? Aren't you both
August
August?
22nd.
Okay. All right, I need to
Yeah.
remember this. I always forget your birthday. I'm like, is it the 22nd or the 23rd? And then I don't text you because I'm worried I'm going to get it wrong. So now I have to, all
It's fine.
right, the
You can
18th
text
and
me
the
on the
22nd.
23rd. 14th and the
14th.
Oh,
22nd.
sorry, the 14th and the 22nd. All right, now it's
Please,
ingrained in
that's
my
not as
brain.
bad as calling Jessica Rabbit Betty Boop.
Oh, sorry. I'm just not on my game tonight.
Or just
Um,
saying that Jessica Rabbit is voiced by Kathleen Turner, completely leaving Amy Irving out in the cold.
What
what's
do you
wrong
mean
with Amy
completely leaving
Irving?
Amy Irving out in the cold?
What did she
That's who
do?
does the vocal performance for Jessica
Oh, for
Rabbit.
Betty Boop? No, that's
Jessica,
Kathleen
No,
Turner.
Kathleen Turner. What are you talking about?
Is Betty Boop? I mean, is Jessica Rabbit?
Kathleen Turner is the voice of Jessica Rabbit. Do you really think Amy Irving is the voice of Jessica Rabbit?
I looked
the
it up in the
the
movie, so I
pop
was like, I
vocal
know
per,
that voice.
the pop vocal performance of Jessica Rabbit is Amy
Is
Irving.
Amy Irving? Okay, all right, that makes
Singing?
sense. The
Oh,
song,
Singing, yes.
interesting.
that okay.
The
There we go.
iconic performance
Okay.
that next time, guys, why don't
Iconic?
you do
Okay.
right?
Was
And
it nominated for an Oscar for Best Original Song?
Should have been.
no, it's
I have
not
a
an
whole.
original
I have a
song. Oh
whole.
my goodness.
Oh,
Let's put a pin. Let's put a pin in the music
sorry.
because
All
I
right.
have a whole.
Because
And
you're
I want
embarrassing
to talk
yourself.
about the music.
Go
Because
ahead.
the
All right, we'll
music
get there.
rules, right? And I remember it came out summer of '88. I have a very vivid memory of like we were hanging out at our grandparents' house and it was getting dark, like one of those summer nights, right? And our old man gets home and he's like, let's go to the movies. We'll go see that Roger Rabbit movie. And we were definitely aware of the film existing, like out in the world, but we didn't know much about it. We just saw images of it. right? There was no, I don't think there was a lot of excitement or consciousness around it. That didn't really happen until I think the first film where like we actively waited for its release was something like Batman and then Dick Tracy. Like it started with Batman and then from there, the next summer, 89. I think it's like our excitement, our tracking a film before its release and then preparing to see it with intent at a specific time and moment was Batman. We need to see that opening night. We need to see it when it comes out. And then immediately after that experience, we did that for Dick Tracy the next summer. And then we were off to the races.
I do remember some discussion about Roger Rabbit before we saw it. Like I was definitely aware that this was going to be something that has never been done before.
And we often didn't go. I mean, we didn't go to the movies at night often, particularly like really late movies. Like maybe we'd see like a 7 p.m. like Inner Space, right? But
For
great
example,
movie, great Joe Dante
like,
film.
if we were going to go
Uh,
see like a
but yeah, right.
Inner
Like that's
Space type,
like maybe something like that we would see. But like this was like a 9 o'clock showing, Comac Multiplex,
That's
huge
really late
theater.
for a 6-year-old.
Yeah,
Nine
yeah.
o'clock.
No,
I
it
was
was
just
it
getting
was
Wow, you guys
a
were
started.
real
partying
surprise.
hard.
Like it was a real surprise that we got to do this, and it was considered like we were like waiting for the film to start with anticipation. Our friend Michael Martinez,
Wow.
who lived
Michael
across the street.
Martinez.
Yep.
We got to get him in here. I mean, he's basically the fifth
What-
party in here in this podcast.
but did I bang my hand in the car door before we were leaving? Do you remember that?
I don't remember that. Maybe you did.
I feel like I did, and it was like, oh no, is your finger okay? And I was like, I don't care. My finger fell off. I was like gonna stomach it. I was like, let's just go. Let's go to the movies. I'm
We
good.
Michael Martinez and I were not asking if your finger was okay.
Not
We
you.
were like,
No,
yeah, right,
never
not
you.
us, not us.
This would be.
We were behind mom threatening you to say that it's fine. Oh, mommy, it's fine.
Yeah.
Patrick had real Oliver quality. And actually, there when I was watching this film, especially like the first 40 minutes, I said, "That's it. That's the comparison." Eddie Valiant, Roger Rabbit. Like that's the dynamic right there. If there's a dynamic, Patrick is Roger Rabbit, and the irritation to my Eddie Valiant.
That's not a accurate because
Seems very harsh.
yeah, it's very harsh, and everybody knows with my cunning wisdom, I'm much more of a Jessica Rabbit.
Oh
So,
I see the world as it is, and I accept it for its flaws. I'm just trying to
Okay.
navigate it with a beautiful face.
all right, poet. Navigate it with a beautiful face.
no. Wow.
So, I remember sitting in the theater as it was playing and just soaking it all in and absolutely loving it. Like from start to finish, being surprised, right? I'm a little kid. I was floored by it. And then of course we loved it in one of those PVC figures. We're like, why can't they be real? Why can't they be Eddie Valiant action figures? So we got these bendable things. There were these bendable Eddie Valiant toys and these 4-inch
Wow.
PVC figures that didn't move. So like that is our memory of the film. So the big question is, Leah, what did you think?
Well, I didn't love it. It's definitely original. I'll give it that. I was like, okay, this is like kind of far out, like for its time. I was like, this is kind of crazy. Um, I loved the beginning. I loved the Bugs Bunny, or the Looney Tunes stuff, and it really impressed me. I was like, God, Looney Tunes was like really kind of incredible. I loved that. And then it kind of turned crazy for me. I wasn't a big fan of the Jessica Rabbit with the live action man. That was weird. I was like,
Whoa,
this
whoa, whoa! With the
is
like, oh, you mean
like the idea that
you
he was
mean
like into her and she's a cartoon. I was
you
like,
mean the
people
patty cake?
watched this.
You
No,
mean
just like
patty
in
cake?
general, that
In
like
Oh,
he
general.
that
thought she was
men would be
attractive.
attracted to the cartoon. Got it.
Right, that she's like not a person, but I guess she's supposed to be. I don't know. The whole thing was like, I was like, this is really crazy. Like, someone greenlit this movie, and every step of the way, people were like, yeah, this is fine. This is totally like normal. I just thought, like, wow, I don't know if this movie could be made now because I just think people would be like, this is
No.
weird.
Well, it would not be
Um,
made for a number of reasons. One, Disney would
yeah.
never, right? So this was made like in Disney's like one of its low points, right? Like
Mhm.
it did not have an animated hit for a while. This is a year and a half. This is the summer of 88, November of 89 will be Little Mermaid, which is the start of the Renaissance, right? And they would never do
Okay.
anything like this when they were running on those cylinders. This is an opportunity where Eisner is like willing to try something like this, right? to allow their IP to be played with in this way. So it was a unique period to be able to do something like this, which I can't imagine will ever happen again.
Also, like it was produced through Touchstone, right? Which was
Disney.
Yeah, no, Disney, but it was like Disney's more mature
Yes.
releases.
Yes. I miss Touchstone. I miss that logo. I miss it quite a bit. I get excited when I see it.
Sorry, my
All the
first
old
note.
logos. I love them.
Yeah, my first note was like, whatever happened to Touchstone?
And
Yeah,
Leah,
it's true.
yeah. So I guess when you're talking about like how dark it is, right? Because that is, I mean, Zemeckis is dark. His films often don't appear to be dark, but they are dark. They have real dark undertones to them, right? I
so.
mean, in Back to the Future, right?
Yeah.
Biff is trying to rape a woman the entire film.
That's true. So this was before Back to the Future, right? Did we
No, it's
clarify
right
that?
after.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So
Interesting.
Zemeckis's track record, if I can get this right, he does I Want to Hold Your Hand, which rules. He does
I
Used
don't know.
Cars, which is like a salty rated R, kind of like Boys Will Be Boys movie about dueling car dealerships, which has a lot of really great stuff in it with Kurt Russell. Then after Used Cars, he does Romancing the Stone with Kathleen Turner and Michael Douglas, which is a lot of fun, right? Kind of like
That's another one on the list, by the way.
Oh,
that
cool.
We have
That's
to
just it's a fun movie.
Okay.
And he does that because there's no way he would be able to direct Back to the Future without Romancing the Stone. And I think he wanted to direct his like plan was with Spielberg to direct Back to the Future. Spielberg had seen a short film of his, so him and Bob Gale wanted to work with Spielberg. They helped write 1941. They worked on that, right? So anyway, so he does Romancing the Stone, then Back to the Future, and immediately following Back to the Future, he does this.
Okay. Interesting.
And that's like when I talked about the music, because Silvestri does the score for Back to the Future, and the score for this echoes Back to the Future quite a bit. The music does so much of the storytelling, and as you were saying, Leah, I mean, for me, I like the whole film, but I am most compelled as an adult from the first half. I love the intro stuff. I love the setting up of Eddie Valiant, right? I love Bob Hoskins in that role. I was telling Patrick earlier, so the opening cartoon is amazing. We can talk about that in a minute. But when it pans to Eddie Valiant and he goes tunes, like Leo, you won't get this reference, but Eugene and Patrick both will. There's only one other line, like if I can think about lines in films that speak to that immediately make like me, for example, like a character. It's that, and in Die Hard, when Bruce Willis shows up, this Irish New York cop, he shows up and he goes, California. He breathes a sigh. He sees something, or I think it's when he sees like he gets off the plane and like a girlfriend like jumps and hugs her boyfriend and they start making out. I think that's it. I don't think it's when he gets kissed on the cheek. Maybe it's at the party, but I can't remember if it's then
He
or at
says
the
it
party.
twice, doesn't he?
Well, no. When he gets kissed in the cheek by the guy who goes Merry Christmas, he's like, "What the?" He just looks at the guy and like shakes his head. I think it's at the airport where he goes California.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. If so, the 5 people listening will be yelling in the microphone.
It's okay. It's a entice them when we do.
So yeah, that's right. That's right. But like that the way he says that and the way that Hoskins says tunes, you just like immediately, I love this guy, right? There's something about this guy. I just love him. So like from that moment on, I do think the music is noirish. And there's a bit of mystery in the music as well. You got the noir music. You've got that sparkly music, like in Back to the Future, that implies magic, right? But on a subtle level. And then it does get real big, real bombastic, real bright, and real wily. Like the moment the cab shows up is when it just like, like the Ernie the cab, right? Like that's when it's over.
Isn't it Eddie? Eddie the Cab?
Eddie the Cab. Thank you, Patrick. I knew Patrick would.
Because when you were talking about dynamics, we're more of a Bert and Ernie, less that's more of an actor. But to speak to your I can see in your eyes you're trying to correct that. But to speak to that point about dynamics, that line for me got overshadowed every time because I love the part where he's like, I'm okay. I can do another take. And he goes, don't worry about me. He's like, I'm worried about the refrigerator.
I'm not worried about you. I'm worried about the refrigerator.
I'm worried about you. I'm worried about the refrigerator.
You know who says that? The director, Raul, is Joel Silver, the producer. It is actually Joel Silver, the producer.
Interesting. Didn't know that. But yeah, I liked the vibe. Like you said, that noir kind of element is cool. Like for, a cartoon, the idea of the whole thing is very original. Like that we're coexisting with the Looney Tunes and how they're all just sort of like, oh, the tunes. Like you said, it's like, it's funny, and they're kind of like the villains. Yeah, I liked the vibe of it. I liked the feel. It was cool. But then it kind of, it takes a turn. and I think it was the Jessica Rabbit thing, just because I just couldn't with her. The idea that like it's a kids movie and she's presenting as she's presenting and that he's into her and like all the sexual undertones. Like I normally don't care about that stuff, but I just felt like it was like inappropriate. I was like, stop it. Like this is not, I don't know. I just felt like it was like there was a line that was like crossed that I was like, Bob Hoskins should know
Yes.
better. You know what I mean? Like
I want to,
just a little
give him,
bit.
look, he's in love with Dolores, right? Joanna Cassidy. He's in love with Dolores, and
Mhm.
he very clearly, he's taken by Jessica Rabbit, right? But he's not, if given the chance, he would not, and Jessica Rabbit has no interest in him. She loves her husband.
Right.
It's a perfect film to promote monogamy.
Okay, an interesting take. I don't know that that would be the broad
It's a coupling film.
perspective
Jessica
on this.
Rabbit, right? Only loves her husband, right?
Okay.
Hoskins never strays from Dolores. I'm just putting that, putting that
Yeah,
out
but he looks. I mean, he's interested.
there. Correct.
But she's not. Like she would go for it if she was not, in like wanting to find her husband and totally obsessed with him. Right?
No, I see. I think this is a quintessential LA story. You know,
Is it?
I mean, because it really plays in this like, okay, Hollywood on the surface is like glitzy and glamour, but there's this like horrific underbelly and
Hmm.
people get exploited. Roger gets exploited, she gets exploited. Like that's the whole undertone, right? So she's being exploited by the studio execs. And
Right.
like that's just been like her identity, like that whole thing. I'm not bad, I'm just drawn that way. Like that's how they position her.
Yeah. That's a great line, I have to
It
say.
it is, and great to use, right? An animated character to exploit to make your point in an actual person.
That's true. And I will give it that. I wasn't thinking about that element of it. So if that's the
Well,
point they're making, then I accept.
in Zemeckis' films, here's a hard time not showing bustiness, whether they're animated
Okay.
or not. The drawing of Jessica Rabbit never bothered me, but whenever I would watch the film and when Roger's echoing in the bar and he grabs Dolores to put her down, he grabs her
Hmm.
by the front of her dress. That always I'm like, why that place?
Hmm.
But like if you watch enough Zemeckis films or watch them over and over and over again, there is that theme. It is undeniable. It is just always there.
Interesting.
And that's not to say though that they're not doing that other thing too. I think it can be multiple things at once, and likely is. And what the start of the film does so well, the reason why I'm with the film the whole time and why I find the ending so emotional is with the setup at the beginning. And he's alone and he's sad and he's drinking, right? Everybody's calling him a drunk because he is always drunk, right? He goes back to the apartment looking at the pictures. They get to see all the photos of him and his brother when they used to be happy. The brother's desk is overly dusty. Like for me, like that setup makes the big payoff at the end. Like I'm invested, whether as a kid, like when I'm a kid and like and Christopher Lloyd turns into a tune, right? And I'm in the theater, I'm thinking to myself, like, holy shit, this is the guy that killed Eddie's brother. We gotta get him. We gotta get him.
Can I just say, like, really quick, that pan, I enjoyed going over Teddy Valiant's desk. Like I was paying attention to the articles in a way that I missed. And
Hmm.
like I don't know if you saw the line like Goofy cleared on spy charges.
Oh yeah.
That
There are
was,
so many great
Yeah.
jokes. There are so many small jokes in the film that rule.
and it was very interesting. Like I didn't realize this before, maybe it was obvious, but it said like the Valiant brothers, like their father was like ran the circus. That was like
Hmm.
Yeah,
like
I didn't
they were,
catch
yeah.
that.
and it was like it wasn't ever explicitly mentioned, but it was certainly the callback at the end when he's doing singing the
It's
song
an
and doing all those
incredibly tight
stunts.
screenplay. It is. I find it to
Hmm.
be. It's not a long movie. It's under 2 hours with quite a bit of credits that are necessary to at the time all the people who were involved. Right. I find it to be an incredibly tight screenplay. Everything is called back. Everything is called back well in a way where you do forget. You don't think about them until they're coming back at the end. Right. I mean, one of my favorite jokes, if we're talking about Eddie's Place, is when Roger says, right, when he goes, "How did you find me?" My ass. I asked the paper boy, I asked the mailman, right? No one knew who you were, but the liquor store guy, he knew.
Yeah.
Amazing. It's the way he says it. Yeah. So, I mean, for me, right, I mean, as an adult, I have a hard time not remembering the experience watching it when I was younger. And at the same time, I do still value it as an adult as well. I know that there's a big debate, like what's Zemeckis' best film, and it often comes down to Who Framed Roger Rabbit and Back to the Future. I likely lean more towards Back to the Future. But I mean, I think this film is running on all cylinders, and that Hoskins is so fantastic in every way.
Wait, is Forrest Gump not even on the list?
Well, I think Forrest Gump gets, we love, you and I love Forrest Gump, talk about it often. I think these days it gets a bit of a, I think it doesn't have a great reputation, I'd say. Not I think, I know it doesn't have a
Okay.
great
I mean, I
reputation.
haven't seen it in a while, but
Like
what's the issue?
it's an ideal boomer movie, and like
Oh,
what it's selling is fantasy, which lots of films do sell. They sell fantasy, right?
yeah.
And I think that Zemeckis goes through great pains, like he did in Back to the Future, like he does in this film. Zemeckis is a filmmaker who takes wild concepts and goes through great pains, even if they can be seen as trite. And I don't know if earnest is the right word, but to make it more than what it seems. And Forrest Gump is a film, still to this day when I watch it, that does go through great lengths to be more than what it seems. And I appreciate it for doing that. And I appreciate it a great deal for doing that. I also think Forrest Gump was a fantastic fuck you. They took the name, right? Like he took his ancestor's name, right? And he played on the glory of the South. He played on the North's ideas of the South, right? And it was a fuck you to both of those things to create a character that is genuine, right? Genuine, heroic, and is unwilling to I don't want to say unwilling to compromise, right? I'm willing to not to be kind, right? Here, he is considered dumb because he cannot comprehend, he cannot reconcile why not to be kind,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah,
And
I feel
it's
like it's almost like a weird like sequel to Being There or something. Like it's got that vibe. Like I wouldn't have thought about it at the time, but just somebody who's like placed in all these moments in time and kind of does the right thing, or they're like a witness to just society and the world. And I just love it. I think it's so unique, and he's like a good person. Like that's the point, he's just like a good
He
guy.
is, right? And then like in Being There, which I haven't seen, I have to rewatch Being There. I
Yeah,
haven't seen it
that's
in a
great.
while. But Chancey Gardner, right? He's almost like a
Hmm.
mirror for people, and
Hmm.
Forrest Gump is definitely not a mirror, right? And that's what makes that so unique. In that, like I do think it is a bit of a spiritual sibling in a way that the film checks people specifically to say he's not a mirror, right? And he's not all the things people want him to be even, right? Like
Right.
that constantly gets checked throughout the film. And it's still, for me, it still hits. I still find it
Hmm.
emotional. And again, Alvin Silvestri, right? Amazing music, amazing score.
Yeah,
Zemeckis
that score is
uses
great.
these films, right? He uses music so very well. From
Hmm.
Back to the Future into Who Framed Roger Rabbit through Forrest Gump, right? I think he does that spectacularly.
Yeah. Yeah. How did you interpret or sort of process like the violence as a kid watching the movie? Like, did it upset you? Because some of the stuff is pretty intense, like the vats of oil or whatever that was, like the gas, and he's like burning people and all that. Like, some of it's really, it's aggressive, and obviously it's all ridiculous and it's kind of like done in this cartoonish way. But like, did you find that, like, was that new for a like animated movie at that time?
I think my first experience, so I would go back 4 years, right? 1984, summer of 84. I'm, I'm almost going to be five. I'm sitting in a packed movie theater in Ronkonkoma, and I'm watching Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, right? And in that film, right, the villain is ripping people's hearts out of their chests. And that was visceral, and I started to get scared. And then something clicked in my mind, and I said, but Indiana Jones is here and he's
Hmm.
going to save the day.
No,
And there
that's
was a
nice.
safety. There was a safety in the fear. And I think
Hmm.
Spielberg in particular, whether he was directing a film or shepherding films that had that kind of fear in it, like a Gremlins or a Goonies. And I think there's a thread in that in a variety of 80s films. You can throw the Karate Kid in there as well, where there is real fear and there's stakes, where the fear is real that creates stakes, but there's the comfort of watching the movie and that the protagonist perseveres. So by the time for me in 88, and I want Patrick to answer this as well, that when the dip is revealed and that adorable shoe is murdered, I hate it. I I feel terrible for the shoe, like everyone in that room, everyone in that bar, and I want Judge Doom to pay. And I'm not leaving this theater until he pays. And he pays gloriously.
Yeah, I remember watching it, but I don't remember how I felt about it. I think like the way Michael captured it was like at that moment, like that Judge Doom's true evil and that he has to be
Hmm.
stopped. And that was like, probably the most 80s hot take I can give. Um, and there's like this Jim Henson quote that I love, or I'm gonna paraphrase their concept, and it's not originally from him, but I attribute to him for giving me permission to probably show my son things that are, he maybe is too young to see, but it's a healthy thing for a kid to experience fear, to be scared watching something as long as they're in a safe environment. And I think like Michael breaking that down, that Indiana Jones thing like illustrates that perfectly because
Hmm.
if you're experiencing like, oh, Judge Doom is evil and he needs to be stopped, that's almost like a healthy thing because he represents a truth of the world. And there are people who just practice cruelty for the sake of cruelty.
Hmm.
And to see that with what that shoe that we're not invested in, but is so innocent, like it's heartbreaking. And then to see like, okay, this I need to pay attention to this movie because this movie does like what Michael was saying, this movie has stakes.
Right. And then we're reinforcing for me, right, as a young viewer, it reinforces values, right? If I'm empathizing with that shoe, then I want to be a force in the world, even on the slightest level, right? That is the antithesis of what Judge Doom is doing. And it goes back to that, just that concept of kindness, right? How can I act in a way that is the antithesis of that? They don't have to these big sprawling things, right? But it could be part of a way of life.
Yeah.
And a lot of these films growing up were very helpful in learning that. Growing up in our household, our father was not teaching that. So for me, role models were characters in film who taught that,
Hmm.
and I appreciated it.
And to that point, like Roger Rabbit as a character was such a deeply moral character that you could dismiss as like on paper as like ideal or naive, but he was proven right all across the board, right? Everybody's saying, "Well, this is how it is, kid. Your wife's cheating on you." And he's like, "No." Somebody made like he saw truth and clarity. Eddie, you're good. You're not what they say, and like and believed in everybody, believed in I mean that the scene at the bar breaks my heart every
With
time I
Angelo,
like
it's
Angela.
fantastic. It is fantastic. Yes.
Yeah. Talk about tension. Like that scene in the bar is probably why I love horror movies. Like to if I put in because I that was like my experience of like tension, like all my
Hmm.
tension and release of like, oh, the shave and a haircut. I cannot knock on a door without going like why I'm just so
Bits.
obnoxious to be around, right? Do bits.
Shaman.
Um but like that whole scene, like when he's just like just shaking or whatever, like that everything every bit
Hmm.
about it, like, yeah, I've seen the rabbit.
Yeah, right. Right.
Say hello, Harvey. Like I thought it was amazing, even though I didn't even get that reference, like
Yeah, it was
Right.
amazing. Right. It was amazing. Years later, when I saw the poster for Harvey with Jimmy Stewart, I'm like, oh, Who Framed Roger Rabbit? I get it now. But like
and what
in the
else?
moment, right, you're so thrilled that Angelo, like that he wouldn't trade Roger in. He wouldn't rat him out,
Hmm.
right? For anything. Right.
And
That they
because he gave him
bonded in
joy,
humanity.
right? Yeah.
Hmm.
And
Right.
this is just how dumb I am when I was watching it for the podcast. When they're like Harvey, I was like, Leah, look, a highbrow cinematic reference.
I don't know if
There you go.
Harvey's highbrow, but
I don't know.
I actually
I know.
never saw Harvey, but it
me
makes me want to
neither.
see it. Oh, you've
I
never seen it?
ditto. No, I
Oh,
No,
haven't. I
but you
would
just
because
love
saw
to
the
see it.
poster.
I do know enough that it's not really highbrow, but it's just the fact that I'm like, it's an old
Right.
movie. It's got to be
Yeah.
highbrow.
Right. Yeah. They were all
I
good back then.
I did pick up today. Criterion has a 24-hour flash sale, so I picked up Winchester 73 with Jimmy Stewart on 4K, as well as The Grifters and Kronos and a bunch of other stuff. But
Okay.
so I'm pretty excited to get those, as well as Chasing Delancey, which has apparently the voice, not apparently, just the voice of Miss Jessica Rabbit when she sings, Amy Irving.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, so that I don't know if that helps to answer your question, Leah.
Yes. Which question was that? My question from the very beginning?
No, the question of
Oh, about the
regarding
violence.
the violence and how
Yeah.
we engaged with it or
No,
interpreted
it
it.
does. And I think that's a really good interpretation. I think and maybe it was because this is the way my parents raised me, or like that was their perspective, was like violence is bad. It was like, don't consume it. Like that was my dad, especially. And I think partly because he grew up in an environment of violence. And so he was just like, this is not good. Like there's nothing good that comes from understanding evil. And so I think that it was like, I don't want her to be exposed to this because it's not good to like have that in your brain anywhere. But I do think that it can be like there is value in it, like you've said, that, you're learning like the difference between good and evil and that you're obviously not rooting for the bad guy. And so all of that is good. And so it isn't inherently bad to see violence or to see, bad deeds. I think I just still have this like weird knee-jerk reaction to
Of
it where I'm
course,
like,
and
this isn't good. Like we shouldn't see this. Why is it necessary? But sometimes it maybe is.
Yeah.
this is the core. Well, this is the core of why we're having this podcast in many ways, right?
Hmm.
Because growing up and even now as an adult and throughout college, right? One of my primary goals is to understand predatory power
Hmm.
through consumption of cinema, sometimes pop culture, but predominantly
Hmm.
pop culture through cinema in general, sometimes television, but predominantly cinema and literature, right? To understand it through these examples in order to understand how it works in reality, in order to not avoid it, but to be able to, when possible, outplay it, which it's always stronger. I would argue it's always stronger because predatory power does not stop. It never gets exhausted. It throws a gazillion things at you at once. And if you're constantly battling it, you're constantly exhausted, right? And it
Hmm.
wears and tears at you. Just take a look at
Yeah.
someone like Dr. King in the last few years of his life.
Going back to this, like the violence in this movie, it to me with Zemeckis, because I feel this way about Back to the Future and Roger Rabbit. Like to Back to the Future, I can't even remember how young I was when I saw it. It's just in my head as a movie that I've always known. Like, yeah, I mean, I was 3 years old. Yeah, I mean,
You were
I,
probably four. You probably had turned. We saw it. It had been playing for like 10 months. Like it came out the summer of 85. We saw it New Year's Day, 86.
so
So
like
you were like four.
and to like I must have, and I in my head like I had that movie memorized before I saw Roger Rabbit. Like that. So
Hmm.
like, but to this day, my son's about to turn 7. I haven't shown him Back to the Future, and I didn't show him Roger Rabbit yet. I know, Michael, we were talking about this, not because I wasn't going to, I'm not going to, but there is like a difference in the violence in this movie. There's a darkness in this movie that's much different than like Indiana Jones, which I was very comfortable showing my son when he was 4 years old. Because there's like and I think talk about predatory power, you feel it differently in this movie.
Hmm.
Um,
100%. Well, like Doom, like what Doom represents. Again, I think the screenplay is quite clever, and I think the film is very, very clever. Right? He represents a cynical, a darkness of change. Right? We're going to literally destroy Toontown. We're going to destroy imagination and create miles and miles of concrete as far as the eye can see. Just concrete, the antithesis of vibrant color. And it is the new world order, right? That is going to snuff out creativity. And that speech he gives, sorry, Patrick, that speech he gives is fantastic. It is the music that's playing, how he's giving it. It is inspiring in a fascistic way. It is perfect. And what a villainous, devious plot. Like perfect. And at the same time, it sounds comical. Like it is when he does the line reading, it is comical simultaneously. Where if you're invested in, you're thinking, what are you talking about? He's talking about freeways. Like the villainous plot here is the highway that we're going to go back home on the Long Island Railroad right after seeing this movie, right? Like that's what he's talking about, and it's both of those things together, and it represents what is going to come and the devastating consequences and the eradication simultaneously, right? Forget about of creativity, but also of community. When Eddie Valiant says, right, why ride on that thing? We could take the red eye for a nickel, right? The red whatever, the red car for the nickel. On the red car, everybody's hanging out, right? You're passengers together, you're reading the paper, maybe you're having conversation, right? The kids hop on the back of it. There's a sense of community there that is eviscerated with this new monstrosity.
Mhm.
To this day, Who Framed Roger Rabbit is the foundation, my foundational understanding of the history of Los Angeles.
I
Wow.
would maybe go Chinatown, but sure.
Well, I mean, okay, we're not even going to get into Chinatown and like how, yeah. And of course, this movie is like direct inspiration of Chinatown. Zemeckis just does it better.
I don't know
Wow.
if I'd say
That's a
better.
hot take.
And
Oh,
that's a very hot take, but I wouldn't say it. But I also wouldn't. I don't want to compare the two. That's the other thing. Like I
no,
wouldn't
you
compare the
don't?
two. No, I don't. I honestly don't because what Zemeckis does, a 5-year-old's not going to watch Chinatown. It's not made for the 5-year-old, right? Hopefully they're not, right? And like how this animates the mind, right, and prepares someone early for later life choices, I find to be a pretty fantastic service. And if you're an adult, hopefully you find it entertaining as well.
Yeah, I like that take. I think part of it, now I'm like starting to like analyze myself, but I think part of why I hate like violence or things that are just negative in movies like this, because I'm always worried about the messaging. Because I'm thinking like, okay, is somebody going to actually understand why it's there? Because I think I just think very little of people, and I'm always worried about how an audience is going to take that. But I think like so I watched this with our kids and it was interesting because they like totally got it and they're always like that's the bad guy and that and I'm like okay, kids get it. Like where it's me. I'm just like no one will understand. Everyone's bad. Like this is going to go in and kids are going to turn into bad people, but it's like that's not always the way. Like your examples of it too that you saw it as kids and you took something totally pure out of it, like what it was intended to be and that it's sort of like good versus evil. So I think it's just my own issue, but I also think people do see stuff like this sometimes and then take out the wrong message. Like they're like that's cool or like that guy got his head beat in and like maybe that kid would turn into a bad guy. So I don't know. I guess it's not the movie's like prerogative or like that to do that, like that's not what it's meant to do. Like it's the audience that has to just be who they are and take what they're going to take out of it. I don't know, that's always my dilemma is I'm like what harm is this movie going to do to somebody.
Even when we did the film club those years ago with the high school students, right?
Hmm.
I like to think that most, if not all, like the vast majority of children and even students, when they're watching a film, when they have the opportunity to watch a film without distraction, they are working their way through it and trying to process it and more so with kids and hopefully as they get older too, make sense of the world right through the film.
Hmm.
And notably, when we hosted that film club with those students, I remember in particular, right? I very specifically remember taking students to go see Fast Seven, and we went to see it,
Hmm.
and I knew ahead of time that you were going to hate it and
Hmm.
question why in the world would I host sponsor a field trip to see this film, right? And this is at a time, right? And this is all. I mean, this is like Christmas morning for the students with all they wanted to see. So we had after the film, the next week we all met to talk about it and we asked, so why do you love this film? Right. The very first thing the student said, heroes look like us. Boom. Right there. Heroes, they are heroes in the film, not
Hmm.
protagonists, right? The heroes, the good guys, look like us. One. And they went from there, which is a value.
Hmm.
And then I said, okay, so I enjoyed the film as well. But what would be some things in this film that I myself might not enjoy watching the film? And the first thing they said, objectification.
because they knew you had conditioned them at that point.
Well, but at the same time, right? Like they were able to look at the film and say, here are things I'm pulling from this film that are worthy of value and my attention. And here are things that I could also be critical of, right?
Hmm.
Or that I'm recognizing may be an issue. And one does not have to take away from the other. That's a silly example here, but in some ways it plays out. And then the last thing I want to say is I think that when you get to be an adult, right, an adult watching Who Frames Roger Rabbit, hopefully they're processing, but there may be a good chunk who are just looking for entertainment. I don't care about anything else. I want to be entertained. And that is it.
So I think the objectification part, like certainly the students knew who you were. But people, especially kids, understand objectification too. So I think that the difference, and this is just like being a boy growing up into, especially like, a boy in the 80s, 90s. You see objectification and then you're told that it's that it's normal. That's just the process. So like you have the uncomfortability, especially as a child, to being like, that person was just objectified in this movie. And at least this is my experience. And then people are like, yeah, no, but that's fine. And I think pulling it back to, I think like in that story what Michael was talking about is like the students knew that he didn't think it was fine. And I think that moves the needle for a kid watching something. I think with Who Framed Roger Rabbit,
Well, just real quick,
Jessica,
Patrick, right? While not shaming, right? While not saying, no, you
yeah,
shouldn't watch this. No, this is bad, right? Like
yes,
kind
yes,
of
you're
like,
wonderful. You're wonderful. Yeah.
no, not me
Yeah, I'm
wonderful.
saying
They're wonderful.
You're
they're
perfect.
No,
wonderful. You're wonderful. It was a
No, but
beautiful.
it's but it's
I,
true though that you're teaching. I mean, I like that as a way of like a teaching sort of theory, like because I think that not just because I feel like part of me wants to be like, don't watch that movie. It's just got like things that maybe are bad messages, but that maybe to think, like you can see anything and get something out of it if you're, thinking about it the right way or looking at it the right way that, you know.
I don't know if you could watch Mel Gibson's 2025 film Flight Risk starring Mark Wahlberg get something good out of it, but that's beside the point. I haven't seen the film,
Okay.
so I'm
Well,
talking
not
out of school.
everything. Yeah, I don't
Listen.
even know what that
Oh
is.
yeah, come at us, guys.
Was that that one that
Spotify
just came
listeners.
out?
Yeah,
Yeah, yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that like that. Anyway,
I don't need
sorry,
that. I don't
Patrick.
need
I know
that.
you were
Mel
mid-thought.
Gibson, Marky Mark Heat. Um,
Oh, well, you just said Marky Mark. Now Mark Wahlberg's coming after us. All right.
Oh.
but I think they're two different people. Um, but in Roger Rabbit again, like just going back to like Jessica Rabbit it was so clear that she was introduced, like Betty Boop introducing her, like it's
Mhm.
like you see Betty Boop and then you see Jessica Rabbit and you understand that this is a cartoon character designed to be an objectification of women. And then, but the whole movie between her character and Roger Rabbit speaking about her is saying like, no, don't objectify her. Like a person of substance, like that.
Yeah.
That's a really important message in a movie. And just about like I think the dangerous thing is like when you look at like a Brett Ratner movie, which is like the point. Every movie is like the objectification is the point. The violence is the point. Let's just try to find an avenue where there could be more violence and justify more violence, or and that's where things I think get dangerous. Like if you're tracking the protagonist journey and there's no like moral guidance or guidepost or
Well, what movie are you referring to? I'm trying to think of what. I mean, I
X-Men
know
Last
Brett
Stand.
Ratner. Wait, what?
He said
Which
X-Men:
movie?
The Last Stand.
Oh, okay. I didn't see that. Surprise, surprise. But
What
yeah,
Brett Ratner film have you seen? I'm
I
just
probably none, but I'm just trying to think of what would the difference be between that and like Furious 7. Like I know that they have heart to them and the whole idea is like they're like a family and the whole thing. But is there really the objectification and stuff like that is still there and that's not really mitigated by anything else. Like so what's really the difference in terms of those two portrayals
Well, the
of
objectification
that?
in Fast Seven, I think that everyone making that film would argue is not the point, right? Patrick saying that for Brett Ratner film, it is the point. For Fast
Okay.
Seven, it's not the point. It's a feature. And again, I'm not arguing like
Yeah.
for that. I'm just stating that James Wan, when making that film, right, or anyone making the Fast franchise and when it was becoming, they were likely saying to themselves that that is not the point
Right.
of these films. There are
Okay.
other points to be made.
And I think in that story, which I like sincerely in the story that Michael laid out, was like anything what was absent in Fast Seven, Michael made sure he inserted in the dialogue afterwards. Like that piece, which I think is important. Like, because certainly we're not saying like Fast Seven is Hugh Freed and Roger Rabbit. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, and even in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, right, with Jessica Rabbit, she literally saves his life. And he's like, "Oh, where's the knife you're gonna stick in my back?" She's like, "Dude, I just saved your life. What are you talking about? You keep thinking I'm a femme fatale because I'm drawn to be a femme fatale. That is not what I am."
Right.
And again, like it is amazing, right? Because the entire time, right, she's in love with a silly rabbit in overalls.
Yes. Yeah, no, I have to say that, yeah, it did kind of turn around. Like when she was first presented and she's doing the dance, I was like, oh my God, are you kidding me? Like, or I just thought, like, and he's like, googly eyes over her. And I was like, what's the point of this? Is it just to like, what, that you want to show a woman doing this, but like you can't, so you're just going to show a cartoon and it's all fine. But then, yeah, I think it does turn. And that whole patty cake scene was hilarious. Like, because we were watching it with the kids and I'm thinking, oh my God, like, are we gonna have to explain this? And then I was like, okay, this is actually funny. And then, yeah, she turns like she's kind of turning the stereotype on its head. So I do think it's well written in that way.
What's funny is
Yeah.
Roger flipping through the photo so fastly that we get to
Right.
watch them actually perform patty
Right.
cake.
Yes. That is funny.
That was so funny, and it was brilliant because like my son's like really into drawing, and we watch a lot of movies together, and we're watching some live action movie. I wish I could remember what it was, and he goes, "Dad, they did a really good job drawing these people." And I was like, "No, those are actual human people. Like
Oh
those are
my
people."
God.
He thought it was like an
That's
animated film,
hysterical.
and like he thought
Oh
movies
my
for a while.
God.
This was like a year ago. Thought like all
Wow.
movies were just like
Drawn.
artist interpretation. And then he was like, "Okay, so how does film?" And I had to like show him how film worked, or even just like I took a
Oh,
bunch of pictures like with my camera phone and like moved it around, and then I showed him. And I almost wanted to be like, "Oh, Patrick, come here, look, watch and see how he's moving the pictures."
oh my God.
But
A few years ago, I took a group of students to go see like a screening of The Princess Bride. In this like huge, I'm one of the few theaters that was a casualty to the pandemic. It was a fantastic theater out in Hamilton, New Jersey, and I took a group of them to go see The Princess Bride. And we're watching the scene where they're in the forest, and there's the rodent of unusual size, and there's the whole battle between the rodent and Wesley. And when Wesley finally kills it, this young man leans over to me and goes, Michael, the graphics in this are amazing. Just the language of students, right? I mean, that's how he just was able to say it. And I
Yeah.
love that, right? This old film, like what, 87, just like killed. That was amazing.
That's great.
And it was just and they loved it. They just ate it up. And yeah, that stuff rules. It just does.
Yeah. No, movies never get old. They're just the best. But also like to your point of talking about the movie after, to me it's like half of movie watching is like then thinking about it, discussing it with somebody, having that analysis of like what did this movie do for me? What was it doing for other people? Why did somebody make this movie? Like because it's all about people and psychology and how we think and how we feel and we're all going through all that stuff. And so it's such an important part of how we interpret. Like it's like interpreting the world, as we're interpreting this microcosmic world after we see each movie. And it's that can be just as powerful as just like seeing it. And then not discussing it too can be harmful. Like if you see something and then you're just like, that was fine, it's like, no, maybe it wasn't. So I think that that's something that often is like forgotten by people. They just like watch it and then walk out of the theater and they're like, it's out of my mind now. And it's like, well, I don't know. Then what was the point of
Right,
just
right. No,
watching it?
encourage conversation. I mean, right,
Yeah.
famously, Hitchcock expected people to talk about the film after they saw it. That was the expectation, right? That when
Hmm.
they leave a Hitchcock film, they are going to talk about it.
Yeah. When I know a movie's really bad is when it ends and I'm just like, I have nothing to say. Like
You
it's
know.
literally like, what's there to say? It was just that, like there's just nothing there. And then that's a bad movie.
Yep. So I do want to. I mean, I've got a couple of things I want to address, but I'm curious,
Okay.
Eugene, you had never seen this film before. What were your thoughts?
I had seen it.
Oh, you had. Sorry, I
Y-
apologize.
this
I
is
thought
this
you
is the
you hadn't
second
seen it.
time seeing it.
Oh, the second time seeing it.
Yeah.
Did you splurge on the Steelbook on eBay? Did you watch the Blu-ray I got you how
No,
many
no,
years ago?
I got it right here.
Oh wow.
Well, it's all blurred, but yeah,
What do you think of it?
it was good. I remember even thinking like the first time that I saw it that I enjoyed it. I think because I generally like slapstick comedies, and so I have fond memories of like Space Jam as a kid. So that kind of style was totally fine with me. I totally jived with it.
Patrick, it's okay.
Why
We
are you?
can't. Sorry,
Why
Eugene.
is
We
Patrick
can't. We
shaking?
don't. We're not big space. We're not big Space
Okay.
Jam folks. We
Oh,
saw it
Okay.
in the
That was
theater.
you should have
It
chimed
was
in. That's a
just
perfect example of a movie without like a moral backbone. When I
it's
was like,
unwatch.
oh yeah,
It's unwatchable for us. I've watched. It's like 80 minutes long, and I bought the 4K Steelbook. I got excited. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna give this another shot. And like, it's like molasses. Like watching molasses dry. I would watch Horizon 3 times over again on
Wow.
repeat. Um,
Didn't they remake it or they did like a sequel recently of it?
it was as rough. The LeBron one was rougher because it was
Oh,
longer.
right. That's what it was. Okay.
the
Space Jam Legacy.
LeBron one, I could not take at all. But yeah, I'm very easily entertained. So I mean, obviously, if I say that I like slapstick comedy, I am very easily entertained.
oh, okay. So thank you. One of my favorite scenes. I'm gonna push back on Eugene saying I'm easily entertained because I like slapstick comedy. I hope all the true comedy fans come at Eugene in the comments, and
Oh my God.
because one of my favorite scenes watching it as an adult is them at the movie theater. I can't believe we haven't talked about this with the way we were
Oh,
talking about cinema. And Roger Roger Rabbit commenting on Goofy, the artistry of Goofy
yes.
is so amazing.
Yep.
It's just so beautiful. Like the grace, the timing,
Right.
all that stuff.
Very
It is
meta,
amazing.
as the kids say. Yeah. No, I think that was really cool.
But even like to talk about like as a kid, the storytelling is so simple. And they leave breadcrumbs the entire time, right? Like how this guy become a judge, right? Oh, he was throwing a bunch of doubloons around, right? He threw and then around Toontown. And then Eddie's like 5 minutes later, he's like, oh, we were chasing some guy who stole a bunch of doubloons, right? Like I mean, like, and no, and I didn't pick any of that up, right? Like they leave all the breadcrumbs. And even I mean, like not to be I don't know how else to say this, but as a kid, right, you're watching it and Eddie decides he makes a pivotal choice. He takes out his old gun, right? He's loading the cartoon bullets and he goes to take a drink and he looks at the bottle, right? The movie's not saying he's not going to drink after this episode's over, right? But he looks at the bottle, he knows he shouldn't drink, right? And he throws it in the air, right? And then he shoots a cartoon bullet that would not be okay today to destroy, right? To destroy it. But I'm watching in the theater as a kid. I'm like, yeah, right. Maybe alcohol ain't so great. And
Yeah.
Eddie knows it ain't so great, and it's preventing him from saving the day, helping to save the day. So maybe we
Mhm.
don't drink alcohol.
Yeah.
And there's
Good
this, and
message.
I do think that like today, right, that wouldn't be in the film because maybe today there's this idea that, well, we shouldn't put that in the film because alcoholism is a disease and it's not that simple to stop drinking and all of this stuff. And that's not what the film is saying. The film's not saying Eddie's never taking a drink the rest of his life, right? The film's
Mhm.
not saying Eddie may not relapse, right? And the film's not saying any of those things. The film's just saying that in this moment he is fully aware that to do this would be problematic and he doesn't want to do it, and he's making a choice in this moment. And that choice allows us, the viewer, to know that he knows, and for us to know that this is not a good thing that he has been doing.
Agreed. Yeah. And that message is heard loud and clear. Yeah. And the kids were like, did he quit drinking? We're like, yeah. Yes, he quit drinking. But yeah, it's
Right, that's
clear.
awesome,
It's
right?
like
Did he quit
very,
drinking?
yeah.
Right?
They're like, yeah, like he needed to stop drinking. He was drinking too much.
That's
Like,
and
okay.
that's awesome,
That's
right?
great.
Like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, that's amazing.
Oh
Because
my
in
God.
other films, right, maybe he's like he's about to go in and he's gonna take one last slug, right? Or
Hmm.
like there are films that do not do what this film did, right? In so many ways, this film plays on these themes and then immediately says no, no, no. I mean, it's an anti-smoking film in 1988, right? He's about to give the baby the cigar, and he's like, "Whoa, whoa,
Right.
whoa! What are you doing?" Oh, by the way, the amount of times Patrick said my stogie, after seeing this film,
Oh
rough,
yeah. I
tough.
got real into bubblegum cigars after that
Uh,
movie. Yeah.
and that baby was hilarious, I have to say. I mean, it
Baby
was
Herman.
funny. Yeah.
So I think Joanna Cassidy's an awesome actress. Does not get enough flowers for the work that she does. Was great in this movie. What a great voice. What a great presence. What a great posture. Like just like her stance, right? Like even every time she enters a scene, it's like she cannot be knocked down. Like that's how she presents in the film, which I love. And on top of that, cinematography rules. Like this film, like you were saying, like whether we like it or not, like the opening of the film immediately immerses us into the
Mhm.
kind of world that Zemeckis wants us to be immersed into, and he's going to blow that up, right? 100%, right? He's going to blow that up later, right? And we get that later. And it's nice to have the darkness and the light, especially when that's the intention, where it's not just like from start to finish overlit.
What else do you want to talk about? Are there other topics, or are we still hashing this out?
Leah's like, I'm tired.
A little, but I mean, I want to make sure
No,
we're discussing all the things.
no, I think I've advocated for the film and talked about my love of the characters enough. What about you, Patrick?
No, I just was thinking, just want to touch upon, are there any one-liners? We didn't talk about the weasels, right?
Oh,
One of the great,
we
Oh,
did
yeah.
not talk about the weasels. They were amazing. All their deaths were fantastic.
just the concept that they die by laughter, like
Ah,
just like laughing themselves to death.
amazing.
That is
It's
funny.
amazing. And the final one, as he's going up to the first of all, they all go to heaven, which is
Yes.
amazing, right? No one goes to hell. Amazing. They all go to heaven, and as they're all going to heaven, the last one, right, tries to kill Roger.
That's so
Aha!
funny. That always gives me a
Amazing.
laugh.
Oh my God.
It's fantastic. I mean, what we want to talk about, like just rehashing lines. I mean, that whole bit about go check the probate. Oh, my uncle had
Oh,
it.
yes.
Cups,
I'm so glad. I'm
took
sorry.
these huge cups of water. Probate, not prostate, you idiot. Amazing.
That was like I watched it late Friday night or something, and I was like, Jen. She was in another room. Like, you gotta watch this. It's such a good line. My Uncle Thumper had an issue with his probate.
He said my Uncle Thumper? I didn't know it was
Yes.
Thumper. Never knew it was Thumper. I missed that. Yeah, any other one-liners, Patrick? Any other jokes from the film that you wanna highlight that you loved?
Yeah, well, my two favorite on the rocks, and I mean ice. That one,
That
Yeah, I like
and then
that
the
one.
then the big rock sitting in the glass, hysterical,
the rock
and
in the glass is amazing.
the Bugs Bunny, Mickey Mouse scene
Yeah,
when
you love
they're.
that one?
I love it. I did.
When I was
It
a
gets
kid,
me
I
every
liked
time.
it. In I Stinker. Yeah, I mean, it was
Well,
fun.
just the whole thing of like, you got a spare? Yeah, we got a spare, but I don't think you want it. Just that build up. It's just classic.
That is true. It is classic Looney Tunes comedy. That is
Yeah.
correct. It is wonderful. And the idea, like as you were saying earlier, Leah, dark, right? Like it is dark. Like Eddie's scared when he's watching Donald and Daffy playing the piano. Right, and Daffy comes out with
Mhm.
the horns, right? Like he is scared, right? He has to realize that oh, they can't die, but it is dark and it is scary, and it's I think it's supposed to be, it's intended to be, and I think it's intended
Yeah.
to be vicious,
Mhm.
right? And to show Eddie's humanity,
Yeah.
and that you're marking it, Eugene, and that wraps it up. We're
No, no,
wrapped up.
no, no.
Eugene, are we wrapped
What?
up? You
No. Let's ask Leah a question or something.
Oh,
Like
what?
what, Leah, would you unwrap this movie again?
Oh no, that's not it. What's
Boo! Boo!
What?
Um,
Eugene just gave me
Boo!
norovirus.
Leah, has your opinion
oh.
of this movie changed since this conversation?
Yes.
Oh.
It almost makes me want to see it again because I feel like I just missed. I was too annoyed the first time, or I had my attitudes, which I often do. So now I'm like, maybe I didn't give it a real chance. So maybe well, now that I own it, I can see it anytime.
That's why physical media is so important.
Yes.
Unwrapped Finally is hosted by Michael Lavalio, Leah Shell, and Patrick Lavalio. Produced by me, Eugene Mock. Thanks for listening. See you next time.
This Roger Rabbit was the one movie where Michael didn't say, and that was the moment when I wanted them all to die. So,
No, I said no. I wanted
any
Judge
of
Doom
those
to die.
mobile crisis
said-
responders out there,
I said no. I said Judge Doom when he killed that little foot.
it was like, then then he's got to die.
That's true.
Yes,
Yeah.
So just so it were,
I paid $5 to watch Judge Doom get it, and I'm not leaving the seat until it happens.
and that's what he yelled like 5 times throughout the movie when we were kids.